This is Coder Radio, episode 311. 311 on May 25th, 2018. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and its related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, Linux Academy and DigitalOcean. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and based down in the rainy pockets of Florida, where it's not so sunny today, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike!
Hello, Chris, and I'm happy to be from... And by the way, I apologize. Jar Jar's not here because he went outside, put his tongue out, and actually drowned. It is raining at a rate that I can only define as furious.
Jar Jar has told me before, when it rains in Florida, he stays off the roads. He can't handle it. He's not a very good driver.
It's actually a problem. Florida is a wonderful state where they haven't yet admitted that they're the third most populous state in the country.
Oh.
So they have these highways that are 2 lanes. It's suboptimal, especially if part of it floods. I just want to throw that out there.
Can I tell you I'm a little suboptimal today? So apologies if I say something totally dumb or the words with the mouth don't work today because I'm a little scatterbrained. You know, normally I've kind of just normalized taking these road trips, but for some reason, because this one involves weird scheduling with repairs. We're getting some work done on the RV on our way down. And
no, what's wrong with the Lady Jupes?
The Lady Jupes has a lean. She's leaning to the passenger side, and I guess it's pretty common.
Sounds bad.
Yeah. I guess it's not actually yet at a point where it's because we're leaning about 2 inches or about 1.5 inches to the passenger side in the rear, which totally just messes with the drive quality. Right, the whole thing sways a whole bunch, and
so you mean awful. The carriage is actually
leaning,
tilted
yeah. Wow. So think of an RV as like a platform that's built by some manufacturer. In this case, it's Ford, and then you have an RV manufacturer who buys that platform and builds the house on top of it. And the house is leaning on the platform. I guess it's super common with the F53 Super Duty RV chassis. Something Ford supposedly knows about, hasn't fixed it. But so we're going in, getting that fixed, and then we're upgrading the suspension so it's an even better, smoother ride too at the same time while they're in there. But, getting all of that scheduled and then also scheduling meetups while also then coordinating with Linux Academy on when we're getting down there and to the Texas Linux Fest crew. My brain's going in a million places. I think right now, honestly, if it wasn't for Coder Radio, I'd be in some sort of anxiety mess. But this is like my rock right now.
Well, listen, Coder Radio is the calmest show on the network, right?
Well, I don't know about that. We sometimes get a little worked up.
What do you mean?
How dare you, sir?
Yes, exactly.
But it is, after 311 weeks, it's like you're slipping into a pair of jeans that feels real good.
We've been doing this for a long time, Chris. And you know what I've learned over the years?
What?
JavaScript's going to fucking make us all bend the knee.
I know. Yeah, that's true. I thought you were going to say we peaked 100 episodes ago or something like that. I mean, that's...
Oh, Mr. Negativity. Our numbers have never been...
We're getting... Well, we're making men's. We're making men's.
We're back on an upswing.
Now, before we go, before we move on with the show, before we keep going, I got to ask you, what's going on with you in Slack this week? You've been MIA all week on the Slack, and I've missed you.
Holy shit, I know why. Do you know why?
Why?
I know why.
Linux. It's that damn Linux, isn't it?
It's Linux. No. When I stopped using my Mac, the only computer Slack app that I had the JB Slack on was my MacBook, and I wiped it and gave it to somebody else, and I'm using my pop machine full time.
Yeah, I knew it was that. That you can you can run Slack on that Linux. I thought you were more into Slack.
I run the Mad Botter Slack. I'm always in Slack.
Oh,
I just didn't add the JB one.
I got you.
I'll do it, Chris. I'm
good.
So sorry, my Chris, because I've offended thee. This is like the JB active contrition.
No,
right?
No, it'd just be good while I'm on the road if we can chat.
Yeah. I'll add it back. Sorry, jeez.
No, I'm calling you out right here on the show right now.
Live on the air, I call it.
All right.
So if you've not liked the last 50 episodes of Coder Radio, it's because I wasn't in.
No. Let's talk about some feedback that we got. Even though we're recording a little early, we did get some follow-up email. Have we talked much about Dart? I don't know if we have.
A few years ago, because the show is older than the dinosaurs, we did, yeah.
So we got an email in asking what your thoughts were on Dart in general, and maybe in comparison to ES6 even if you felt like it. Like, do you have any general current Dart thoughts?
I have Dart thoughts. They're not as current as I wish they were. I honestly, I think we should take a step back. So for those who don't know, Dart is a programming language, obviously, because it's the code of radio, that is compiles into JavaScript or indeed WebAssembly. Chris will remember, and I think most of our listeners will know, that before ES6, there was this, can I say like trend? Is that a fair term, you think,
Yeah,
Chris?
I think so.
To kind of bridge other programming paradigms and other programming languages.
Good way to put it, yep.
Into JavaScript. So what would happen is you'd have, I forgot the name, I don't know if, Chris, you know, but there was one that actually can do it like Java. And I know there's one that does it with C#, that was out before TypeScript. But the idea would be, like, I'll give you an example, CoffeeScript, right? CoffeeScript, in fact, when I used to talk about Dart, I'd always talk about CoffeeScript, was basically like a Ruby-style syntax that would compile into ES4 or ES5 JavaScript. And all of these languages give you conveniences and additional, I don't want to say additional features, because when you're compiling into another language, it's just that they make doing something easier, right? Because the interface to the developer is easier than it would have been in the original language. My problem with these technologies, and indeed today, like I do all my bot dev either in C# or most commonly JavaScript. I'm not a big believer in the compile from language A to language B. Especially now with WebAssembly. Like if you're writing Dart and you want to compile directly into WebAssembly, I think that's great. Having said that, Dart 2, I did do a little bit of playing around with it when we got this email. It looks very cool. It does not dissuade me at all from ES6. I don't know, Chris. I'm just of the opinion that, you know, like we said last week, JavaScript is kind of the universal native language.
It feels like WebAssembly, too, is sort of making us reconsider a lot of the stuff.
Well, so I'm going to feel really bad about this, and people are going to email us. But, you know, C++, ANSI C, Objective-C, and any other derivative of C basically could compile on an LLVM or GCC compiler, right?
Yeah.
And for those of you who are about to email me, Objective-C used to compile on GCC. I'm just old, and Apple changed it later. I feel that way almost about JavaScript now, where WebAssembly is actually like a compiler of sorts. And you know what? I don't begrudge you for using Dart or TypeScript or anything like that. But for me, you know, I've written probably hundreds of thousands of lines of JavaScript. Actually, it's probably a lot more than that, but it makes me sad to think about it. I think ES6 is very powerful. The module system is very intelligently designed. I personally don't see a need for, you know, Dart or TypeScript or anything like that. But there's nothing wrong, right? Because like, to me, it's almost like if you were writing a Mac app. And again, we're going back to Snow Leopard here, because let's be honest, that's when things were better.
You gotta move. I mean, you just gotta move on, man. You gotta move on. Although,
no, never.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm in my Snow Leopard Linux phase right now. Like I am currently entering a golden era of my Linux desktop usage, and it'll never be the same when this changes.
With apologies to Reddit, but what distro are you on? If I can?
Oh, I know they hate it. I'm just super happy with Kubuntu 18.04. It's just really been solid.
I'm super happy on Pop. We're doing the show on Pop right now. I love Pop. I run Pop full time.
You're on Pop OS. I'm on Kubuntu. This is a Linux to Linux end-to-end show now. Isn't that interesting?
I think there is nothing that System 76 can do to improve Pop. In fact, I am so confident that they will fuck it up. Like, no matter what they're thinking, it's wrong. It's like Apple with Snow Leopard. You won.
Yeah. It's like...
Go on vacation for 3 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, really.
Yeah. No, but my point was like, in the Snow Leopard era, you know what? Objective-C would compile on a GCC compiler. You could write the same Mac app in C++ and straight up ANSI C. To me, I feel like that's what WebAssembly is for JavaScript. You know what? I prefer ES6 JavaScript. Chris may prefer CoffeeScript.
Yeah, always.
You know, Alan Jude definitely doesn't prefer TypeScript. That was a terrible example. But
he likes PHP, and he's sticking with it.
Let's just call someone named John may prefer TypeScript, right? As long as you're hitting WebAssembly and you're doing it that way, I'm almost thinking that, and I'm going to apologize, that JavaScript is going to be the C of modern programming. Yeah, it feels bad, doesn't it? Hurts a little. So yeah, no, if you want to use Dart, go ahead. Right? Like no one's...
Yeah.
I think you're fine. Having said that, don't be the only person on your team using Dart, right? You have to think about the team. You have to be a little more...
Man, if that is not so true. We just had a recent little snafu in the open source community between...
Only one?
Well, just this week. Where essentially it came down to people that were forking... Well, they weren't forking, but people that were adding things... were adding it in a different language than the upstream project was written in. So upstream project's written in Vala.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's... Yeah. All right, well, so hey, just a little trivia on CoffeeScript since it's been so long since we talked about it. CoffeeScript first appeared 8 years ago on December 13th, 2009, and they had their latest stable release, version 2.31, just 3 days ago as we record this.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? A lot of people... It's the default in Rails if you spin up a new Rails 5 app. And Chris, we didn't even have this in the show notes, but you know Rails 6 is coming out.
Oh yeah, we could just make an episode.
Do you remember talking about Rails 2 on this show?
Yeah,
I do.
We should make an episode about it.
We should do a Rails 6 episode. It's
gotta get out of our system, right?
You know, it's like bulimia. You just gotta puke it out.
Oh man, why did you even? Don't even. So there is one huge story that we're not talking a lot about, I guess, because we're a bunch of Yankee bastards, but it's GDPR week. By the time you're hearing this, it was last week. Happy GDPR week, everybody.
Yes, I appreciate all the spam.
Oh,
every internet service.
Hey, by the way,
use.
updated the privacy policy, just so you know.
Yo, dog, please click accept, right? Like,
I gotta give it, I wish I could go, I wonder how fast I could find this. I kind of have to give my favorite GDPR email that I got was from Dan Benjamin, who runs Fireside, which is where we host this show at coder.show. And so, of course, you know, everybody's sending these emails out. I probably won't be able to find it because my inbox is overrun. And
mine's a nightmare. This week has been a nightmare.
Yeah, every inbox I have. It was, here it is. Okay, so here's the subject line. Subject line, the excitement of GDPR compliance is palpable. And it says, hello, fellow podcasters. I'm sure you were expecting this email and I wouldn't want to disappoint you. I just like this. So some people are having fun with it. And some people are already going to war. Activists are already targeting Google, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and others for in compliance with GDPR today. As we record, today's the first official day that it's in effect as we're recording this.
So my favorite was Travis CI, the continuous integration tool that I imagine a lot of our audience uses. It ties into GitHub. They sent an email with a subject line, Happy GDPR Day, boom emoji.
Yeah. You know, the LA Times and the Chicago Tribune, you know what their solution was to GDPR? Is it
block the EU.
Yeah, they just blocked the EU. Yeah, that's insane. That isn't. So, you know, recently we've been kind of negative, like on Patreon and outsourcing that kind of stuff. This is one of those moments I am genuinely glad that we have PayPal and Patreon to handle audience donations or not donations, but I guess contributions, because the onus is on them to be GDPR compliant, and they're on top of it.
You know what? Even, you know, I know a lot of our audience is consultants. Like I'm using, I just switched from Harvest, which we didn't even talk about on the show.
Oh, interesting.
I moved all of my accounting infrastructure from Harvest to QBO, QuickBooks Online.
Oh, you moved to QBO?
I moved to QBO, yeah.
Oh.
I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it's all already automatically compliant.
Why did you move away from Harvest out of curiosity?
ACH transfers.
Oh, really? Oh, see, we use QuickBooks Online here, mostly because we wanted something we could use through the web so we could run it on Linux.
Well, the Harvest is the web too.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, we didn't know about Harvest at the time. So I had been kind of looking around to see if there was something more competitive. So that's interesting. Yeah, these are the things
QPO gives you zero fee ACH transfers, which if you're doing transactions in the thousands or tens of that, you want zero fee, right? So
yeah, these are the things about running your own business that we could do a whole episode on the tools that we use, or the back end tools and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, using a service like this, like when something like GDPR happens, you just don't have to care.
That is the upside. I mean, I think you and I, in particular, in the last couple of episodes, we've been kind of online hosted services are a trap. They get you with low price, but then it builds up. But there is some benefits, like not having to deal as much. We still are like doing a review. We actually had somebody, a listener from overseas, contact us and say, hey, this is my area of expertise. Would you like me to just, as a contribution to the network, do some consultation? So we are engaging with an individual on that, but just to make sure. But looking at wherever money's involved or like people's addresses, we don't deal with any of that stuff.
No, I don't in my business either. I mean, I'm even, and I actually this is a side note, but I had a consultant come in and tell me I'm too passive in terms of, I don't want to collect customer data. I just don't. I don't feel good about it, Chris. You know what? It just doesn't feel right to me, right? Like if you want to buy more services or you want to buy a license to Atlas or back in the day, Code Journal,
actually.
You could.
Okay,
sure.
So, all right. I guess because surprise, surprise, I kind of stepped in it recently.
Shocker.
I know. I have kind of come down in favor of system information collection that Canonical is doing in Ubuntu 18.04.
Wow, I'm actually really surprised at that. Okay.
Yeah, and
I agree with that position, but I'm shocked that you do.
And so I've been having a pleasant back and forth with Carl from System 76 about it. He's on the other side, and I've been having a very unpleasant back and forth with people on YouTube and a couple of YouTubers that I've really upset. And
I can help you.
My fundamental premise comes down to how do you make the software better without having this information. So before we talk about that, let's thank DigitalOcean. And then I want to get into that because I've been really in the fire all week about this. And I feel like I've weathered it pretty well, but I would love to get your take on it. So go to do.co/coder. This is how we stay on the air right here, is when you visit do.co/coder. Plus, do.co/coder, you get a $100 credit at DigitalOcean. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you know how I use DigitalOcean, but let me explain how you can use it. Maybe you're new. Maybe you don't know. Think of DigitalOcean as your new data center. When you want to spin something up that doesn't require a monitor, do it on DigitalOcean. Although they do actually have an HTML5 console, which I found to be extremely useful when rescuing a system that we'd screwed up recently. So go to do.co/coder and try spinning up a system. You'll see that you can do it in less than 55 seconds. Every system you deploy uses SSDs. If you attach additional disk because you decide you need more storage, that's all SSDs. And it's unbelievably fast. We've had, as you can imagine, plenty of people try out DigitalOcean in our audience who are very technical. And the fact that I continue to get great feedback about how fast the SSDs are, about how fast the network infrastructure is, about how great the API is. And after all of these years from our audience, that really tells you something. They have passed the test of some of the most discerning people out there. And you can try it out. You can get something spun up in less than 55 seconds. You can deploy an entire software stack or just a base system. It's been vetted by Jupiter Broadcasting's audience now over the years, and I can tell you as somebody who uses it every single day in production, you know me. If something isn't working for me, if it prevents me from doing a show, I rip it out immediately and I burn it with a fire, just like a big old bonfire. Like a big old bonfire with like some diesel fuel on there just to get started, because let's not be crazy here, but then all of a sudden once it gets going, you want to see how far you can go, that kind of fire. And here I am, years later, still using it because it's that good. It's that great. It's got a great uptime. It's got predictable pricing, and it's got an interface that's so simple. If you've never spun up a server in your entire life, you're going to be fine. And if you've been doing this for 15 years, you're going to love some of the advanced features that they elegantly tuck in there. So go try it out. do.co/coder. No S on the end. Make sure you get that right so you get the $100 credit. do.co/coder. All right, yeah. So I kind of stepped in it because, well, here's what I did, Mike. First of all, before I go any further, I just looked at the report. So Crazy Canonical, with their big data collection scheme, at the end of the installation of stock Ubuntu 18.04, It says, we're collecting data. Do you want to opt out? Are you cool with that? And would you like to see what we're collecting? And when you hit yes, it's basically just a plain text JSON file, just a plain text of what it collects. And it's your resolution, what display server you're using, what installation media you used, the type of CPU you have, how much RAM, and some basic other information about that. And it's right there in plain text. And when I saw that, I said to myself, that looks like reasonable information that a company developing a desktop operating system would like to know about their target user base.
Yeah, sure. You have so much variety in what people could be running.
Yeah, and it's nothing like there's no username in there. There's no IP address in there. And Canonical has stated publicly on the record that their Apache servers are configured not to store the IP addresses of the people that are sending them the information.
So what's the controversy here?
Data collection is happening at all.
You mean?
Oh, so the other part of the controversy, so part 2 of the controversy is, and this is where you could legitimately argue, I think, if you opt out of data collection, it still sends a ping to Canonical saying they opted out. So there's still some blip in a database somewhere.
Happening.
Yeah.
Right,
mm-hmm.
right.
So the fact that you can't opt out without some information being sent is a point of controversy.
The operating system you just downloaded is completely free of charge.
And it's opt-in by default.
Right, and the data they're asking for is literally as innocuous as could be possible.
Yeah. But, so the argument is, so think about the customer base here for a moment. The argument is, well, this customer base wants an OS that is truly surveillance-free. There's not even a packet sent from my network when I install this operating system. It needs to be that because that's why I'm coming from macOS or especially Windows 10 with all of their, quote, telemetry. And so the customer base, well, at least a portion of the customer base for the Linux desktop, and probably a decent one, wants something that is the opposite of the commercial operating systems and all of their flaws that have developed over the years. And now they see Canonical following in the footsteps of Windows 10, essentially, to collect that data. And keep in mind, like, we've just had Cambridge Analytica, Facebook and Google are constantly in the news these days for privacy violations. Like, everybody's super hyped about this topic right now. Because I simply said, I think it's okay that Canonical collects this information, and because I said I think it's okay that they collect the information that you are opting out, I've taken a position of data collection is okay, I guess. But I guess my core point with the whole thing is, even if you opt out and collect nothing, it's good to send them that ping because then they know then they have an accurate representation. Then they know what portion of their customer base doesn't like this. And, customer is an interchangeable phrase here. And if you don't send that signal, then the only people that are sending signals are the people that like it, and it reaffirms to Canonical this is a good thing. So by not sending them the ping to opt out, you're actually just encouraging them to continue data collection. So that's been my argument, but it's still not being received because it sends data. And my final point is, it seems like if you don't trust the word of Canonical about what they're collecting about you and that they're not storing your IP address, if you can't trust those statements, then you shouldn't be trusting them to build your operating system and run package installations as root when you install updates. Like, you got to go to you're probably a good Fedora candidate at that point. So the fundamental point, though, is
the material risk here, though.
Well,
like, in real world, what am I afraid of?
Well, data collection, and that's the bigger point that I want to get to with you, is it's data collection. So I view it as not even necessary. Doesn't seem like even like a big enough descriptor. I feel like it's one step above necessary. It's like it's fundamental for them to make a better product. Like, there's really no way to make the Linux desktop better without more insight into the types of hardware that is being run on. Like, in this very moment, as we record this episode, there is this big discussion going on with all of the Ubuntu flavors and the core Ubuntu development team. Should we drop 32-bit flavors of Ubuntu and only be a 64-bit distro on the...
Stupid.
And they don't know. Because they literally don't know how many 32-bit users they have versus 64-bit users. Sure, they don't know.
But like, Canonical is not forcing, like, Windows 10 does a lot of questionable data collection, right? Canonical is doing one ping to a server, but then you have to authorize the rest of the data collection. And the data they're collecting is really innocuous.
That and
they're
bug
not
crashes.
collecting your IP.
You could argue bug reports have something in there that is identifiable, maybe. RAM contents, perhaps, if they send that. I don't think they are, but because that would be gigs. But you know what I mean? Like, there is bug reports that are being turned on.
That's what I'm thinking. If you're running a 16 or 32 gig machine, they're not sending you a dump of your RAM.
No.
I don't know, man. This is one of our topics that we had in the show notes. What is the value of data, right? And as a developer, when someone says, like, the worst thing that can happen is someone calls you or emails you, right, files a ticket, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the entire ticket, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
The app crashed, Launchpad crashed, whatever.
Yeah, we had an email into the show that we just missed, and I responded to him just this morning. But the guy's trying to package up a product for customers that's built on Linux, but it also needs several dependency projects like SQL and Apache. Like, he has all these dependencies, and
just like everybody else does, right? That's
exactly. And if you don't get all of them just right, their application won't run.
The whole thing vomits.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I like running 1804 POP 1804 on my machine. I've had a lot of not a lot, but I've had a few weird cases where I've had to go in and say, oh, well, the dependency archive wasn't updated for something, so I need to manually install a deb. Like, I don't know. I would have liked if the system had just said, hey, you're missing this dependency. It's not in our normal repo. However, the official Ubuntu Canonical Launchpad site has this. Do you want us just to download and install the deb?
Yeah, like, why isn't it aware of all the PPAs on Launchpad?
Right. It should just be completely aware of the PPAs, right?
Because they don't want you doing that anymore. They want you installing snaps.
I understand, but I need the
Yeah, me too.
What?
Yep.
I like Snap, right? Like,
yeah, me too.
I mean, I think everything should be a Docker container. There you go.
Oh,
that's your angry coder quote of the day. But you know what? Snap is great. I mean, I love the pop shop. I don't love when things crash and I can't file like a bug report. Or it's hard for me, like, I email the developer, I'm like, yo, your app doesn't work. And they say, great, do you have a crash log? And I say, nope. Right? Like, it's just, that's not good for anyone.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And so when I replied back to him this morning, I just said, this really sounds like the job of a container. You need to get all of your different dependencies all in this container. And I still don't feel great about that recommendation. And I think it's the sysadmin in me. Like, I think it just feels inappropriate and it feels over complex. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And it feels like it's the wrong solution. Like, the right solution is to install
What is the problem you're solving, though?
Well, I guess the way you would do it traditionally is you have a SQL server on your network. And that's what all of your software uses, is that centralized SQL system. And then you build that out. You can scale that. You can replicate. You can back it up. And when you put all this stuff in a container, it's like, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't want it. If I was on the other end, if somebody came to me and they were selling me an application and I already had a full PostgreSQL running for 5 other applications on my network, and then somebody wants to come along and just drop a container on my system with its own.
Look at it from the app developer's perspective. You're a customer who maybe paid me, let's be like super generous here, $60 for this app, right? Let's be honest, you probably didn't pay me anywhere near that amount, but let's say you did. Do I really want to help you configure your Postgres install, or do I just want to throw it in the Docker container?
I know.
In the Snap image.
I understand. I completely understand, and it totally reduces so many like complexities and things that can go wrong. But at the same time, it's just like, how many SQL servers do you have running in containers?
Right. From a technical perspective, I've always had a problem. Can I go back to my wonderful, beautiful, majestic jungle cat for a minute?
I'll allow it.
Snow leopard. One thing I never liked about macOS was the way they package applications. Chris, I'm sure you know exactly how this works.
Well, you have different ways if I'm getting this right. So, like, on macOS, you can get like a .pkg installer.
I'm not talking about the PKG.
So you're talking about the DMG?
Straight up DMG.
Yeah, so the DMG is pretty crazy because it's In a way,
it's effectively an ISO.
Well, and it's a lot of way like the snaps work, because snaps are mounted file systems just like a DMG is. And then you have an app bundle inside a DMG. So you have an HFS file system inside an image. You mount that HFS file system, and then the .app file extension is actually a folder. And inside there is all the contents of the application. And then you drag
There's a bunch of hot links to different. Yeah. So the way Mac works, right? Anything that's part of the system, core whatever, core foundation, core animation, core audio, whatever, would be installed in your system and not replicated. But any other library, I don't know, let's say ASI HTTP, which is an old networking library that every app used to use for about 5 years, you would have like 20 versions of that installed on your system.
Yeah.
Because you got the exact it didn't even matter, right? Like if Chris had an app called Chris.app using version 2.2.1, and I had Mike.app using version 2.2.1, guess what? You get a new version for each.
Yes.
The exact, just like deeply wasteful of hardware resources in my opinion.
But functionally, did it ever hinder?
Oh, functionally, you know what? Let me tell you something. Selling Mac software was great. I gave you a .app or a .dmg that opened up into a .app. You just drag that baby into your applications folder. It worked, right? I didn't have to care. Like, it just worked. And all you had to do was say, I supported 10.6, which was Snow Leopard and up. And at some point, I dropped Snow Leopard because I'm so sorry.
That whole drag an application to the applications folder is such a relic of ancient Mac OS. Like, it wouldn't be something that any platform, including Apple, obviously, as you can see with iOS, would do today.
Well, with the PKGs, too. Like, the PKGs are a little more sophisticated in how they actually work.
But thinking about it, that function of taking an application and dragging it to your application folder, for users who don't fully grok what the file system is, that gives them a very physical understanding of where that thing lives. It's teaching your users in a way.
I'm going to push on you a little bit, though.
You bastard.
I'm using Pop, which has the elementary, or I know it's not exactly the elementary.
Yeah, but the store
it's effectively the elementary store, right? I completely know how to install a snap package for Slack and Spotify and Geary and everything. But I like that it comes by default and that I can click a button and get Slack and Spotify.
Wait a minute, they got Slack in the App Center?
Yeah, Slack's in the App Center, yeah.
Oh, on Pop, yeah, right, yeah.
On Pop, yeah. On Pop, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I like it. I don't think there's anything. I don't think it's like a convenience just for people who don't know what they're doing, I guess is what I'm putting back on here.
Yeah.
It should be easy to set up a minimal workstation, right? Like, would I want to install crazy things like an Objective-C compiler? Because, you know what? GNU Step is coming back, baby. I just miss Objective-C so much. Yeah, that should be hard, right? Like, let me tell you something. If you're bored and, you're thinking that your life is good and you want to take yourself down a few notches, go ahead and download Ubuntu 18.04 and try to install GNU Step. It's an experience.
Your core point, though, about the fact that Pop! OS makes that available, I think is a good one, because if you look what really brought Ubuntu forward, what's been a big boon for Ubuntu Mate and for Solus, is they make installing the applications that you're going to end up doing, or using, I should say, it's more straightforward. Like Fedora has just recently made moves to that too,
which is weird for Fedora, but
yeah. I think it's about the, and I think it's also perhaps why Google is adding Linux apps to Chromebooks. It's about making all of your infrastructure immutable, from your servers to your containers to the machines that you're developing software from. It's this, and I for one welcome this new paradigm, because it's essentially how I've tried to live forever. Yeah, I in any particular circumstance, with the exception of a couple of systems, should be able to nuke and pave a machine and get it set up and going within a couple of hours. Now, there's lots of little fiddly settings and preferences, especially on KDE Plasma, that, I'll set for days. But like the core, like this thing does its job, that should be a 2-hour thing. That's how I feel. Is that it?
One thing I learned years ago, and we should move off this, but when I had my old app code journal, the vast majority of the sales were actually on the Mac App Store on the initial launch. And it taught me something, even though it was an app. If you're not a longtime listener, CodeJournal was the original Mac app that did GitHub events and issues and all that kind of crap. There were competitors later and blah, blah, blah. But these were people who couldn't go to Gumroad and download the app and figure out how to install it, right? So they paid a premium to buy it on the Mac App Store.
Well, I used to pay that premium on my Macs just because and now I don't anymore. But
I still, when I was using, I prefer the Mac App Store because it just updates for me, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, there was something, not to cut you off, but my larger point was, I always thought those people were crazy, but they may have been right. Like, what they're really paying for is
convenience.
You know what? I released an update because GitHub changed their API, which if you listen to the original Code Radio episodes, there was a period where GitHub did that once a month and I didn't sleep, right? Like, that was a problem for me.
That was awful.
That was rough. Or GitHub, when they used to have their outage problems. That was big deal.
And then you would get all the crap.
I get freaking yelled at, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what? Like, given the choice on my Ubuntu machine or my Pop machine, I download everything in the Pop shop because I get the update. I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I unlock my machine when I get to work. I'm using my Dell Optiplex. Hey, there's an update. Today there's an update to the Terminal app. Great. Sounds good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to. I like computers. I love it. I like Linux.
You just want it to work.
But I got shit to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People got paying me to write code. They don't pay me to fiddle around with my system.
My bigger point there is like, it also just makes the reloading process simpler. If you go to the Mac App Store or the Pops software store or App Center on Elementary OS, it just makes reloading your core apps faster. You boop, 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 boop. That's me clicking the installs. And then you just go about, you come back in a few minutes and your computer's got a bunch of software loaded. Ubuntu Mate is really good at this too. I think it's going to be a bigger part of desktop Linux going forward. But speaking of desktop Linux going forward, let's mention Linux Academy, where you can increase your skill set with all of the things and technologies around Linux. If it runs Linux or Linux runs on it, Linux Academy likely has a course on it. It's a full-featured training library with everything you need to learn new skills and advance your career. And if you go in there, you'll find that there's self-paced, in-depth video courses on every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic. And if you go to our URL, linuxacademy.com/coders, the one with the S, you can get a 7-day free trial and you support the show. Why not try out their hands-on scenario-based labs? It's really compelling. You set the distribution that you want to learn from, say it's like Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and the courseware then adjusts to that. And they have cloud servers that just spin up as the courseware is going along. And guess what? It matches that same distribution. The courseware and the cloud servers match your preferences. And if you have a tight time frame, they have a course scheduler. You set a time frame, it'll fit your schedule. They'll work with you to set some goals and some reminders. And if you ever get stuck, lost in the weeds, or you just have some questions, they have full-time human instructors, topic experts that will come on and answer your questions. And those are the same folks that are constantly updating the content, adding new courseware. It's a really good service. linuxacademy.com/coders. And if it's time for certifications, they've got courseware on that too. In fact, they've got courses created specifically to prepare you for those exams. And they have practice exams and quizzes to help you get yourself ready. That is super valuable. And of course, they've got group tools if you want to work within a business. And they have downloadable study guides and audio that you can use offline completely, and iOS and Android apps. If you're a commuter, perhaps you're in the carpool seat, why not study on the go? linuxacademy.com/coders. Go to linuxacademy.com/coders, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring this here show, linuxacademy.com/coders. Man, oh man, there's so much hoopla to pick from. Okay, let's start with this one just because it's probably the most obvious. We all saw this coming.
Yeah.
Essential is going up for sale, and they've canceled their next phone. $100 million for nothing.
I don't have a lot to say on this.
No.
I mean, it's a little sad, but it's what was definitely going to happen. Right?
Yes. It doesn't matter if it was Andy Rubin. Doesn't matter. The creator of Android launches a phone. He calls it the Essential phone. Gets $100 million because his name is Andy Rubin. Actually, in total, I think they raised $300 million, and they think they ended up selling 200,000 devices max. I don't know. At one point, Essential was valued at $1 billion. It's kind of I don't know. I guess I think we just need we need to come to a new understanding about where the mobile market is at, and about how we're really locked into a couple of big platforms for a long time. And
it's a mature market, right? I mean,
have you followed the Librem 5 at all from Purism?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I don't have a lot to say on it.
Yeah. It's going to be a big battle.
I don't believe in it, right? Not in a moral way, but I don't.
Doesn't seem possible anymore, does it?
It just doesn't seem like it's going to go well for them. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
All right. So here's what I thought maybe we could talk about a little bit is you and I have had some on-air and off-air conversations about monetizing skills, about bots and all of that. Here we are, just about midway, not quite, into 2018. And do you think the official bot hype has died? Do you think it died within 6 months? And is it because of Home Assistants? So 2 questions for you. The first one is the bot hype dying, and is it because of Home Assistants?
Not to do the lawyer on the stand thing, but I'm going to answer your question by not answering it.
All right, give me your best.
What is a Home Assistant but a sophisticated bot?
Well, this is where I was. Yeah, okay, this is where I was going. Yeah,
I would say that what we're seeing, and you know what, I watched Google I/O. To say that I was shaking like someone who watched Cthulhu Rise from the Pacific would be a dramatic understatement. You know what? I'm so happy we didn't have a show during Google I/O.
Really? Now I wish we would have.
I mean, I PTSD'd out on the Swift announcement. I was shaking on the ground in a pile of my own vomit and urine during Google I/O.
Because Assistant is killing all bots?
Yeah. I don't even know what to say, right? Because, you know what? Siri might suck, but I recently had occasion to purchase a Google Android burner phone. Don't ask ask my attorney, Ed Snowden. And let me just tell you something. Even on that piece of shit that I bought for $175 in cash, straight up bought, no contract, no nothing, Google Assistant's pretty damn good.
Yeah, here's where I'm going with this, so stick with me, is I think Google Assistant is going to become the new Microsoft Office of the next generation. So it's
interesting.
But it's going to be a platform, and you're going to write code to the assistant. You're going to write applications to the assistant, and you're not writing a bot anymore. You're going to write something that's compliant with the back-end services that Google runs here. This, to me, is a travesty in a way. I was not just because of Alice, but I actually thought the bot market had some serious potential just because of our experimentations here at JB with JBot. And it's nothing. There's no big hype to it. It just simply automates several steps. I've created macros. Basically, is what it is. Business macros.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That interface with different aspects of our business and different stacks in our different technology stacks that are like multi-vendor, and it talks to each one of them, and it executes things for us across all of them. And it's something that I could log into each one of them and do. But it does it all with a single command in a chat interface. And we've been using it for years. I mean, years, and maybe as long as this show even, or it must have come, maybe it came online within the first year of this show. And it's been extremely useful. We're using it right now to do this show. And so I definitely recognize a business advantage to bots. I was never really big into the whole consumer bots or like, buying stuff or tech support over bots, but like a black matter developer market of creating bots, like creating bots inside companies to automate things, actually seemed like a great idea. And if somebody could create a great tool set to enable that, I thought that'd be perfect. But what's happened instead is I feel like these gimmicky, half-baked lady tubes are sucking all of the air out of the room for the bot market. And if okay. That's my premise, basically.
No, you got it. No, I don't want to cut you off, but so like I'm using Alice internally, and I was trying to sell it to the digital agency dev shop market, and I had a tough time pitching the value. But you know what? Like just tying Alice into QBO and saying, "Hey, I'm going to make up a name here. Hey, T'Challa. That's the Black Panther, if anybody is a movie fan. You haven't been working on this ticket, but Captain Solo says you have 2 popular movies. What's up with that, right? You're getting a paycheck, but you're not working on a new work item. That's bad, right? Let me put it. Maybe that's a little too specific for people working.
Or you could also say, I mean, think about this. Hey Tube, add 15 minutes to the Baker account for resolving outage with their database.
Sure, but like the ability to yes, that is very helpful, right? But also like the ability to pull data from different web services together and software as a service.
Yes.
Just like pulling QBO and pulling data from GitLab, which by the way, we're using GitLab again.
God, we need to do a tools episode again. Or what about saying like, hey Tube, how much has XY account generated in revenue in the last 6 months while you're trying to answer one of the emails? That should be
how much of my credit card bill is, what would be called meals and entertainment, and how much is like software services?
Right. Stuff that I actually would pay somebody to do to tell me.
Right. Stuff you pay an accountant to do.
Yeah.
Right, really.
But it's all data that's available. But I feel like businesses and even myself, I wouldn't be big on that unless it was something that was running on my own local server. That's much more appealing. Or my own server could be my own Droplet, my own AWS instance, whatever it is. But I feel like it's not something that's a Google Assistant action.
It's almost like there's someone in a dark, rainy room working on getting rid of your dependency on Azure to do that for you.
So, but here's where
using OpenNLP. Oh, geez, I've said too much.
So check this out. So what Google has done with the Assistant is they've been able to do something that I don't feel like they've accomplished with any of their other products to this scale. Like think about when they've launched Android TV and all of that. Like they got some buy-in, but not a lot of people wanted to bundle it with their product. But with the Assistant, it's crushing it. And I've seen a lot of Kickstarters.
They're kicking ass.
I've been, I watch Kickstarter now for Tech Talk Today, and tons of Kickstarters, they're launching with Assistant built in because it takes care of so much stuff. You want podcasts, you want music, well, we just include the Assistant, and the Assistant does all of that.
It's the Windows 95.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
So in Q1 of 2018, the Google Assistant just went bonanza. They had a 483% year-over-year increase in unit shipments. They shipped, now that's not sold, but they shipped 3.2 million units. For comparison, Echo devices shipped 2.5. Google Assistant, 3.2 million units. Echo, 2.5. So now obviously the Echo has a massive head start. They have way more market
install base is tremendous.
Yeah, they got like 60. So right now though the numbers are like this: 69% for the Echo and 25% for Google Assistant. But they're coming in fast and hot with this, and I think they're gonna eventually figure out a way to integrate it in with the Google apps and Google Business Services, and it's gonna be like,
why wouldn't you?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. You know what? I'm sorry, Chris, but like, it is not hard for me to play music. Like, I love vinyl records. Please don't email me.
Oh my God, dude.
But
I can't believe you just said that. You're giving me a hard time about the HomePod, and you're playing vinyls.
I have lots of vinyls. And guess what? It's actually a lie. I was going to say I have more Taylor Swift records than anything else, but to be honest, I have more Bruce Springsteen records than anything else.
But maybe Taylor Swift coming in as
I have every Taylor Swift record on vinyl.
She's coming in a hot second is what you're saying, a hot second.
Let me tell you, she's coming in machine gun loaded, just like Vietnam. She's coming in hot. Like,
okay.
How do we always end up at Tay-Tay in Vietnam?
I don't know. I don't know.
Even I have a problem.
It's not me, dude. It is not me. I respect her as a creator, but it is not me.
One of us is obviously in love with Taylor. The other has PTSD.
Let me think about it. I literally cannot name. I know some of her songs. If I heard them, I would know it's a Taylor Swift
song. Can you name
song.
5? I can probably name 20.
I could not. I don't think I can.
Do you want me to take this challenge?
Give me her most popular. What's her most popular song?
They're all fantastic.
What's the one where she's like, it's complicated?
No, that's Avril Lavigne.
Oh, okay, no, not that. No, no.
Why do you have to go and make
No, not that,
so
not that.
complicated?
Not that. Okay, never mind. I guess I don't. Maybe I
There's
can't.
White Horse. There's Love Story. There's Dear John.
No.
There's Reputation.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? We don't need to do this to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Overrated. I meant overrated, not complicated.
Overrated.
Yeah.
You're overrated.
No, that was the song I was thinking. Oh no, that's not a song. Okay,
It's not a song by Taylor Swift. No.
I'm sorry, dude.
Trust
I wasn't
me.
ready for this.
If there's one thing I know, it's Objective C and Taylor Swift.
I was not ready for this. I apologize. I do not mean to step on your Taylor Swift toes there. I apologize.
Anyway, it is not that hard for me to get up and change, for instance, from Taylor Swift, the eponymous album, to, let's say, Red or Reputation. I don't need to say, hey, LadyTube, please play me more Taylor Swift, because you know what?
You're getting it wrong.
Any good
You've got this way
LadyTube
wrong.
would...
You've got it way wrong.
I've got it wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
I'll give you an example. So there is this company started by this guy who is just really, really, really well known for making super good sounding speakers. His whole company is founded on making these speakers that just sound incredible. He builds these custom wood housings for them, and all of it is handcrafted. And he sells in small batches, and he's based out of California. And recently, his sales have begun to decline because people are buying these crappy-sounding LadyTubes in place of his handcrafted, wood-boxed speakers, because people want to just have all of their playlists available easily and just get access to them. And so what he started to do is he started to integrate Google Assistant, because apparently that was the one that was most straightforward for him, into his super fine handcrafted speakers, so that way he can sell it and say, it plays your Spotify. And their sales are going back up, and they're doing well. And now they're launching a Kickstarter with a whole new product line. And it's simply because they can say, you can play your podcast and you can play your Spotify on our super fancy handcrafted wood-boxed speakers. It's just like they focus on the speaker, and then they put like a little Arduino in there running the Google Assistant or whatever it is, and they let Google take care of the software side, just like hardware OEMs are doing that with Android devices. They're taking care of the Android hardware, and then they're shipping the Android OS from Google, or maybe they're bastardizing it a bit. And they're not creating their own OS. That's what these speaker guys are doing. It's this, and now TV guys are going to do it, and toaster guys are going to do it, and gals. Like, it's going to be anything, all of it. Anybody that wants a speech interface that's well connected with apps that doesn't want to implement it.
Didn't we say this before with like Android TV? Like,
yeah, I agree. But this time,
I have an Android TV, like an actual TV, but Android built into
483% increase in sales.
No, no. Google, I don't know.
So you got to start writing for the assistant, is what I'm saying. You don't create your own bot anymore. You create.
It's
something.
Actually not that hard. You just,
Yeah, it's going to be even worse than mobile development.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to, like, I have a forward vision of being more positive on the show, which I'm about to.
Yeah, you're trying. Yeah, you don't want to end on a sour note.
I'm calling an airstrike onto my own position here. So,
well, I bet you. Actually, why don't you say it, and then let's challenge ourselves to end it on a positive note. See if we can.
Okay, if you're telling me that the future of independent developers is building for the Google Assistant, then I'm telling you the future of developers is that we all rise up in a proletariat revolution.
I don't think it's the entire,
because it ain't gonna go that way for us, right?
I think it's a lot of people are going to, just like you're writing now for Chrome.
Money. But they have
Android.
But this is not new. This has been out for a couple years now, and no one's made any money.
They're just getting started.
Oh, dude, no.
You wait till they launch the apps part of it, and then they'll have Google Assistant Enterprise, and then you can start selling that.
It's, you know what? It's not going to be like the App Store. I just want to say that, right? Like, for all the Apple hate we get from the audience, Apple actually did make sustainable businesses back in 2008. Just saying, it's a decade ago, but
yeah.
These Alexa, Google Assistant, it's not going to be like that.
Maybe. I don't know. Mycroft is launching a.
Oh yes. Let us place our faith in Mycroft. Where is my fucking box, guys? It's been like 4 years.
They're launching. They're gonna go blockchain. It's gonna be all good now. They're going blockchain.
I know he moved out of the state, so maybe you did mail it. The poor guy who moved into the house I used to live in is like, what the hell is this? It's a shitty Google or like a shitty Echo. Oh, man.
There you have it. You know, Mr. Dominic.
Mycroft. I love that you mention Mycroft every episode now, though. How is the HomePod, by the way?
Good. It's good.
It's great, I'm sure.
I enjoy it. It has good sound. It's great for listening to podcasts and audiobooks.
Now, did you do the thing where you bought two and you...
No, dude, come on. No,
I'm not just screwing with you. I heard that you can actually, like, set... Seriously, like, because it's a mono speaker, right?
Yeah, but not until... You can't do that until AirPlay 2 ships.
Oh, it doesn't work yet?
Yeah. No, for me, the HomePod, the reason why the HomePod is kind of decent is because I've been using HomeKit for a while, and it acts as a HomeKit hub, which means now I get remote access to like my cameras and stuff without having to go through like some cloud service. It's like a direct connection, which I really like.
Right, it's a local connection.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we don't have internet connectivity in the RV, we can still do some HomeKit stuff using that. So I like that, and it's very fast because of that, because it's over the LAN.
Do you know what else works without an internet connection?
What's that?
A vinyl record player.
That is true.
I mean, if you're driving the RV, it almost certainly doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, one of my tasks was today is I have this 1 terabyte SSD that's over USB 3, and I load it up with all of our saved content, so that way when we're going down the road and we don't have internet connection and we stop and we at some rest stop and just want to relax for a bit, we can watch a little TV. It's pretty nice. It's a pretty good setup.
You are so adorable.
Why is that?
If only I had met you first.
All right, Mr. Dominic. Well, that's pretty positive.
Yes.
People want to send us their contact information, maybe their accounts, like their social security information, those kinds of details, their identities in general. They can go to coder.show/contact.
So we're going to have an interesting announcement probably middle of next week on themadbotter.com. Go ahead and subscribe to @themadbotter on Twitter, Madbotter Inc. on Twitter, rather.
There you go. @themadbotter, and you can also, I think we have a Twitter. You can probably follow that @Coder Radio Show, and why not follow me? I'm @ChrisLAS. And if you're going to be in Texas, maybe I'll see you down there. And if not, just keep listening here because I'll definitely see you next week.